So one of my motivations for doing this project was to really just get to see how people do a creative project, or what is their creative process in their life. And as I interviewed a lot of my new friends and learned about their lives, I found that each person kind of has their own individual conception of creativity, their own conception of mindfulness, its limits and its abilities, but also they have a particular way in which they go about being creative. Something I also found very interesting in doing this research in this project was that everyone has a different idea or a different way of knowing that they're being creative. For example, the Hiram, the singer, and also he was also the stage director, he knew that he was being creative when he had a flurry of ideas that would come to him. Whereas some of the other people in the documentary were telling me that they knew they were creative when they had this level of excitement about a certain idea or a concept. And that was really enlightening to me, because I like to see everyone's or different people's creative process in action. And a lot of this project that I did through my thesis allowed me to kind of get granular with that and to see how different people approach a creative endeavor. And that was really useful to me, because I have a lot of creative projects that I want to do in the future, and seeing how other people do it and really helps me understand how is it that I do it, and maybe I can take some things that they do well and incorporate that, or try them out at least. Something else I learned by doing my project in a documentary film format was I learned a lot of production skills. I learned a lot of what goes into creating a documentary. I did all of the work myself, all of the editing, all of the color correction, all of the sound engineering, the equipment training, the setup, the lenses for the cameras and the different settings on there, a lot of the green screen, and many other technical aspects that were a huge benefit to me in my learning. You know, I told a number of different people about my thesis work that I already know how to write a research paper, or at least I feel comfortable in doing that kind of project. So I wanted to do something that would really push me outside my comfort zone in my thesis work. I really wanted it to be something that I was proud of, but also something that I knew would put me into new territory, and that would really challenge my thinking and my abilities. And that was one of the reasons why I chose to do my creative project, or my creative thesis, as a documentary film. Because I wanted to learn what goes into creating something like that, and also be able to do that type of work ongoing, not only in the mindfulness realm, but also in other subjects as well. So that was kind of the motivation behind doing a documentary rather than, say, a research paper or some other creative endeavor. Something else that I have also learned as I've reflected back on my creative thesis project is that there's so many logistical things that happen in creating research that hopefully has an impact on other people's lives, whether that's in a lab, whether that's out on a documentary and following people's experiences like I have, or whether your research takes some other form. That there is so much logistics that go into creating a detailed but also impactful research project. Some of those logistics that my project took into account was scheduling and working with 8 to 10 working with people's different schedules, trying to get out there to film and then to edit and then to take time to do the technical aspects. But also I had to take a lot of time to really look at what is it that I want to ask them? What is it that I want to showcase from their experiences? What was fascinating as I was in the post-production of creating this documentary was that I had so many hours of material. I had probably 10 to 12 hours of material to work with, but I needed to condense that down into an hour and a half or less. And that was extremely challenging. So I needed to really have a deep understanding of what it was that I wanted to present to you, my audience. And that was a wonderful experience, not only from an editing standpoint, but also how to structure my questions, but also the responses in a way that would make the participants look good, but also stay true to their experience, and not really try to cherry pick different things from them to help, confirm my own biases or confirm my positionality within this research, in this research project. So that was very educational for me, and looking back on it, that was one of the biggest challenges that I had in creating this creative project, was how do I determine what I should show and what I should not show, because there was so much wonderful material that these my friends gave us in their interviews, and there was so much that I was not able to show because of time constraints. Another thing that I spent a lot of time with as I was thinking about my project and looking back at it now, I see that I spent a lot of time looking at my positionality and how I could best represent that in my research, in my creative process, but also how I could allow those that I interviewed their own space and really give them the opportunity to tell us what their experience was without me kind of guiding them in asking, okay, you had a great experience, right? And then just leaving out everything else. That was a wonderful experience for me, learning how to ask open-ended questions, to allow the participants to really tell us what their experience was and get into that and not be afraid that maybe they had something happen that wasn't in line with previous research. And those are wonderful things for us to learn about. So learning about how to ask questions that wouldn't, really put the conversation one-sided was really interesting. And I found that very useful. Another thing that I really learned in doing this research project and looking back at it and thinking about it is it really helped me learn a lot about my own creative process. I was very excited when I had delved into the scientific research on walking and on open awareness meditation and other creative practices that enhance our creative thinking. And I was excited because I wanted to find a way in which I could really see how people use creativity in their lives, and if certain practices that have been shown in the lab could actually help them. And how that relates to my own creative practice is I've actually done a number of these different practices, such as writing stream of consciousness for 10 minutes before you get down and do some writing, or going on a walks, or even using open awareness meditation. But I've used them all in isolation. I haven't really used them in together in a way. And so doing this project helped me to put together a structured way to do that. And one of the challenges in putting together a study like this or a creative project like this was of simplicity. How do I make something very simple that people actually do and enjoy doing so that we could have strong integrity to the actual results? Or at least that people would find this project enjoyable and therefore have a desire to do it in the first place. And I was particularly challenged by looking at those who were in a city environment or an urban environment. And because they're very, very busy, or at least they are constantly talking about being very busy and not wanting to, add another thing to their list. So I needed to find a way that people of all walks of life, pun intended, could actually do a practice like this and that would affect their work. So that was the first challenge, was finding something that people in all living arrangements or in all types of living environments could actually do this. And then number two, I needed to find a practice that could enhance creativity, that all people, regardless of language barriers or cultural barriers and so forth, or modes of technology or access to technology, that every person could actually do. And after thinking and really delving into these issues for quite some time, I came up with a simple solution to have everyone go on a walk, and at the same time to practice open awareness meditation. Because what's interesting is that walking and meditation have been studied separately, but not often been combined, or at least I've never found any study or scientific research that combines those two. Most of the research that I have found on mindfulness and meditation are usually done in a position where you're sitting or you're lying down on the ground. I haven't really found a lot of research that actually investigates walking meditation, but specifically open awareness walking meditation. And I haven't found any research that has combined all of those elements together that focuses on how does walking open awareness meditation enhance our experience of creative thinking, or how does it enhance creative thinking at all. So I felt like I've come up with a very unique project that I'm hoping will inspire greater work and interest in the work of creativity and how open awareness meditation and walking together can actually enhance that. And I'm hoping to inspire scientists or those that do research projects in this area. But I'm also hoping to inspire others that just want to have more well-being and less stress and want to enhance their creativity. So not only do I want to inspire researchers, but I also want to inspire those everyday people around the world with a practice that they can actually do that will have benefits in their lives. And I personally have found, by doing this practice for a number of weeks now, a number of months, that I've seen great results. And I think that the participants in the documentary also seem to have had great results as well. And that's been really exciting for me. Another thing that, reflecting on my project, I have really been interested in looking at the anomalies that have happened. You know, some people have found a lot of benefit from doing this practice, at least those that I interviewed said that they had wonderful benefits. But then a few of them also said, well, they had some benefits in some areas, but they didn't have as many benefits in other areas that they expected to have. And after interviewing them and really looking at that, it seems that those that gained a lot of benefit were more actively engaged in creative projects versus those that didn't seem to have as great of a benefit from doing the walking every day. They didn't seem to be as active in doing creative projects while they were doing those walks or right after those walks. So it'd be interesting to see in future time if those that actually were going out and doing a creative project right after their walks, if they actually received more benefit in this practice or not. Another thing, I learned so much from delving into the scientific research on these topics. One of the things that I really came away with was that the field of creativity, specifically mindfulness, meditation, or creativity, those two, that they are beginning to converge a lot, but there's still so many unanswered questions, and it's a ripe field to be studying in. But there are some interesting parallels or things that some discoveries that have been made that seem to point in a particular direction. And that direction is that different meditative practices or contemplative practices have different cognitive effects. And some of those cognitive effects enhance creativity and some of those inhibit creativity. Interestingly, it seems that from the research that I have delved into, that the meditation that focuses your attention, like focused attention meditation, such as focusing on your breath or doing a body scan type of meditations, those seem to actually inhibit divergent thinking, which is your ability to see many possible outcomes or ways to use a particular concept. So divergent thinking is often about taking one concept and another concept that are not usually connected with each other and finding a novel way to use them together, or finding a novel connection between them. And it seems that focused meditation, where you're focusing on your breath, your body scan, or some other object, they seem to inhibit divergent thinking or decrease it. But open awareness meditation seems to enhance it. And that's at least a particular trend right now in the research. And that was a really interesting finding, which obviously had great impact on what I ended up doing for my creative thesis. Another thing that I learned from the literature on these topics was that walking has been used for many hundreds of years, it seems, as a creative outlet or a practice to enhance creativity among many different cultures and among many different creative domains, such as writers and scientists or painters and composers, for instance. But it really hasn't been studied very much in terms, or walking hasn't been studied very much in terms of its ability to enhance creativity in a scientific terms. At least there are very few studies, but the studies that we do have seem to show a positive correlation between walking and greater divergent thinking. And that research was integral in my creative project. And I have found for myself doing these walks and these open awareness practice that when I do that, my divergent thinking does increase. I'm a person that is constantly thinking of a creative idea or mulling around different concepts. And I have found that when I go walking and use open awareness meditation, that process, that creative process of thinking of how do these things work together, how do they not, that is greatly increased for me. Before I started this creative project, I thought about the methods quite a bit. I thought that it would be awesome to be able to do, a battery of creative tests on these subjects or these participants. I also thought it would be awesome to do divergent thinking tests. But unfortunately, much of the data collection methods and also the ethical boards that would need to be involved would actually it would make this project take a lot longer. And so I decided to kind of skip all of that and actually dive into a documentary format where we're just doing interviews. But besides the time constraints involved in collecting data and going through the ethical board approval process, I also felt like it would be interesting for the layman or just the populace at large to actually see what other people's experiences are like outside of a research setting, a formal research setting. And so that's why one of the reasons that I did the documentary rather than a creative or a formal research methods such as doing research groups and control groups and all of those types of things. I felt like it would have been, I really wanted to focus in on the actual experience, the subjective experience of the participants, and maybe at a later time study these things more from a scientific lens. Overall, I have learned so many things from doing this creative project, and I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity, not only the facilities, the connections, those that participated in the documentary, that they were willing to do so, that they enjoyed that process. But I'm also really grateful to Lesley University, to my advisors, to the staff, and to my professors for their great support and really teaching me many things that I've been able to utilize in this thesis project. One of the wonderful benefits that I've had is being able to be mentored by really experienced researchers, and I'm so grateful for their tutelage and that I've had the opportunity to work under them. In closing, I just want to say that I am really, really happy with the results that my creative project has taken, and I've learned so many things, not only new skills, research skills, not only production skills, but I've also learned a lot about the subjects that I was hoping to study more in depth, such as creativity, walking, and open awareness meditation. A lot of what I would like to do going forward is to explore meditation in other cognitive enhancement ways. In other words, how does meditation or mindfulness enhance our cognition? Creativity being one of those key areas that I have a professional interest in. But yes, this creative project has been absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to complete it, and that I've had the support from Leslie and LTV, who's allowed me to use their facilities to make this project possible.